This has been the best day I've had in Toronto in forever.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't feel like I was in sort of a traditional urban setting. I was in two environments that the city, again, thought outside the box or permitted people to think outside the box and to elevate and activate spaces. And we have to be really careful, I think, that we don't get too caught up in just building, gray box, gray box, gray box. Like it has to, there has to be areas and space for people like Matt and myself to go out and, activate.
Today at the table, we're talking to two of Toronto's most innovative creators who took empty lots and made incredible spaces that we all flock to. From coffee parties to drag brunches to date night to watch the big game, we're talking about Rendezviews and STACKT Market. Today at the table, we have Oliver Geddes, founder of Rendezviews, and Matt Rubinoff, president and founder of STACKT Market. Welcome to the table, guys.
Welcome, gents.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to be here.
So, Matt, when you took a look at this desolate piece of land and went to the city and said, I want to put a bunch of containers there, did people think you were crazy? Like, what inspired that?
It was definitely an interesting conversation. The inspiration came from a bit of travel and looking for an opportunity to build something out in Toronto. Once we figured out sort of going, from a financial standpoint, going vertical was kind of the only option out there with it if you wanted to purchase land, and that was quite limited. So we actually looked for something to lease out there. And as you look for something to lease, we needed some vacant land, and that's quite limited. Found that lot, which was really interesting. And then we approached the city on it. And as I said, it was an interesting conversation. Took some time, but everyone came around in the end, and it was it all came to life.
I think it's kind of cool that your background is both in marketing and real estate. So you have that kind of unique perspective when you're looking at spaces. I mean, what you've created is so innovative. Mm-hmm. I think it's just, one of those things where it took a lot of imagination to think I can, repurpose this space that was a desolate train track area.
It was a funny one. Actually, one at first we had hesitation because it was an active lot. It actually just had a fence around it. It wasn't even a parking lot or anything at the time. And the area had sort of a lot of industrial use and not a ton of density around it. And so it took a bit to actually do some research and look what was coming to the neighborhood. And once we realized what was online and the density that was coming, and that there was this need for services, there was this real lack of, these spaces where people could hang out in the area with a ton of condos being built up. So once we saw that coming together, it really made a lot more sense around that lot. And so it was actually bigger than what we were originally looking at, because it's 100,000 square feet. It's the size of a city block. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bigger than we originally were thinking, but also, opened up a huge opportunity of what then we could do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. For a lot of, like you said, the density's been built up around there. There's so many condos. And how do you, when you kind of initially designed this space, how did you make it so that locals would enjoy it too? That's our backyard. We're going there. We're hanging out on the weekends. We're going there for date night during the week, grab a beer. We want to go watch the game. How do you kind of balance that between not being a tourist trap, but actually somewhere where the locals want to go?
Yeah, well, right back to some of that research on sort of seeing where the gaps were, and there was going to be basically all this density, and the condos were going up, and there was this lack of services. We had to then look what was that lack and what was missing and what would everyone appreciate. And so it goes right to early stages when we actually listened to the community and the locals around to say, what would everyone like to see? And that helped shape a lot of what we did there. So we went with that approach of, build this for the local community there. And that was first and foremost. And, when you build something for locals, we feel that, the tourists will follow naturally.
Yeah. I love that. I love that both of these spaces really are great examples of great urban design and placemaking initiatives and how they can actually impact the area. But I would imagine that dealing with local government, and I'm sure this is an issue across cities, that there was maybe a lot of red tape or obstacles that you both were challenged with. So I'll pose this question to Oliver first. You maybe want to speak about your process in getting Rendezviews to where it's at today.
Our process with Rendezviews is sort of one of one, I think, because it was a COVID baby. So unlike Matt, who I think probably had to go through the traditional channels and whatnot, we were all locked down out of our businesses. I think it was sort of late March 2020. And in June, the premier, I think it was June of, 3 months later, the premier had announced that we could open our patios. And I had a Duncan Street cafe patio. And as we were opening that, the city had purchased a parking lot, which abuts our building. It's a 30,000 square foot parking lot, I think in 2018 or 2019, and put a fence around it. And so within 3 weeks, I sort of came up with the idea, reached out to the BIA, the former mayor, John Tory. Both were very supportive of the process and the idea, and basically said, let's go for it, and went for it. Former Mayor Tory was very helpful with the premier because we had to get it rezoned. And we literally went from a parking lot to having it rezoned and opened within 3 weeks. That first year, it was only sort of 80 picnic tables and a large screen. And then we thought it was just a 1 year deal. That fall, Mayor Tory announced that 2021 would be the year of the arts. And this idea was born of, okay, what if we take, what was still very much sort of just a gray, concrete jungle feeling patio, and really do something that had never been done before, paint the entire surface, the 30,000 square foot surface, as well as the building adjacent to it, which was another 15,000 square feet. So we ended up creating this 45,000 square foot mural that just took off and won international awards, and was unbelievable as far as that, the timing of that coming out. And it was also the Euro that spring. And so everyone had been locked down now for another, long winter. And so everyone came out that year and really embraced the whole concept and the idea.
So was that the initial concept? Because, for anyone who hasn't seen any of this, and hopefully we can showcase some of this now on this episode, it is just this visually stunning place, and we've seen many aerial shots of just the view of the city and the CN Tower, and then just this sort of canvas that has been sort of brightened. Was that the initial concept?
Yeah. Again, it was. I was trying to get away from this concrete jungle feel, and again, the idea was to bring vibrancy and energy. That was sort of the mandate, if you will, to the artists. We found this great husband and wife team called Clandestino Art, and they did everything with their street artists, and they did everything by hand with, it's all spray paint.
Wow.
And these guys just went to town.
It's a lot of paint.
It's a lot of paint, but it was this sort of magical time where it really just, everyone got involved and everyone was painting. We were out there painting ourselves at one point, the surface. They would give us little patches to paint, and it really brought, it gave us all a project and a thing to sort of rally around. Initially, people didn't get my idea of painting the surface. They were like, why would you paint the surface? Someone's going to look at it. And I said, no, from above, this should be stunning.
Exactly.
And then it got to a point where like the tourist planes were flying over, and it's become a huge thing. And I think sort of a poster of Toronto, both Toronto Tourism and the province have used it in their marketing efforts. I think we're close to 100 million impressions or something insane now online with it. So it's really it became and evolved into this neat thing.
Yeah, that is really fascinating how, you have to sort of think outside the box and really push the boundaries. And I know the same thing happened with STACKT in terms of how that space is set up. And even just thinking about like all the logistics that go into stacking containers and making sure that they meet city requirements, or perhaps not even having like a guidebook for how spaces like that can be designed. So what do you think is gained from designing with impermanence in mind? Just sort of coming up with a big idea and just seeing what you can do with it.
First of all, I envy Oliver with it around a 3-week timeline of how quickly I moved with it. That was our goal. The whole intention of it was this temporary build, and with temporary, it should be quick. Unfortunately, it was very new and innovative at the same time, and when anything's new, it takes time. And then we ran into some challenges around the infrastructure that was required with it. So there was quite a bit, and once the infrastructure is required, then there's a whole few more layers that are involved. And so the containers themselves should be really easy, and they're kind of like building blocks, but there is structural elements as well. And once you start to modify them, you're now, there's the structural integrity of them, which needs to be met in there. And of course, if we had just stack them simply on top of each other, one on top of the other, you can actually go pretty high without modifications. But of course, we wanted to keep it interesting and do architecturally things that would be, you know, really interesting and infusing new people with it. So with that comes a lot more cranes and steel work and some challenges that come with it. So we did build it in a way that, you know, there's this main structure that would stay longer term, and we would not shift so much, but there's a ton of elements of containers and different structures around the site that we are, you know, they're very modular, and we're able to move them around throughout the site and use them for different things.
Yeah. No, that's really fascinating. I think Toronto not being necessarily the trendsetter, but we've seen more of these spaces take place. If you think of even like Graffiti Alley, that's kind of sort of bloomed into this destination, or what the Bentway's doing on the Undergardner, like there's a lot of cool spots within this part of the downtown core. What do you think is a lesson that maybe other cities can borrow from both of your great initiatives?
Go ahead.
I think it's just that. It's thinking outside the box and permitting artists, entrepreneurs, independent business people to go out and give them a canvas to showcase their talent and their vision. You know, the last week I went to the Bentway and Fort York for Electric Island. Friends of mine put that on.
Yeah.
And it was this
That looked
amazing day.
really cool.
And I cut out a little bit earlier to avoid the crowds, and I went to STACKT. And and I'm not just saying this because he's here with me, but it's and I was like, this has been the best day I've had in Toronto in forever.
Yeah.
And it's because I didn't feel like I was in sort of a traditional urban setting. I was in two environments that the city, again, you know, thought outside the box or permitted people to think outside the box and to elevate and activate spaces. And we have to be really careful, I think, that we don't get too caught up in just building, you know, gray box. Like it has to, there has to be areas and space for people like Matt and myself to go out and you know, activate.
Yeah.
We're going to take a little twist here and get into our quick bites. So we're going to ask you some rapid fire questions and just kind of give us the first thing that comes to mind. Ready? Everybody ready? So I'm going to start with Oliver, and then Dana's going to go Matt, and then we'll switch back and forth.
All right.
Okay. Oliver, you might be biased because you've kind of already said, but what's your favorite view of Toronto? You can't say Rendezviews.
I live in the East End. I enjoy sunset in Riverdale Park. So if you're on the east side of Riverdale Park, you get down into the bowl, and you have the whole cityscape there. So that's a nice spot for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So picturesque. Matt, question for you. If you could reclaim any space in the city and make it your next project, what would it be?
Probably focus waterfront area. I do think there's opportunity down there and some missed ones with it. So if there's something I could grab, not a specific lot, but probably pretty much anything sort of central and on the waterfront, I think there's some good opportunity there.
I think we need some visionaries like you guys to get that going. It's been 100%. Kind of empty forever.
Absolutely.
Oliver, you kind of hinted at this already, given props here to Matt's STACKT Market, but describe your perfect Toronto day off. No meetings, no responsibilities. Maybe you've even left your phone at home. Where would you go?
I would probably go down to the waterfront. Actually, I have a dog that's usually by my side at all times, and go down to Cherry Beach, go for a big walk. Maybe hit Cherry Street Barbecue. I love that spot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's sort of the last building that's there, and like Matt, I think that whole area has so much potential in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, really excited to see what's to come. Matt, when you're in someone else's space, what's the one design detail you always notice first?
Tough. I think probably different between residential and commercial. For some reason, residential floors always are something that draws my eye and when I go in. But from a commercial space, typically lighting and branding probably stick out as two of the initial things that catch my eye.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is for both of you, so pay attention. Okay, Oliver first up. Best thing you've seen someone do in your space that reminded you of why you built it in the first place?
Best thing. Well, painting it. That was pretty epic.
Yeah.
To me, it sings when there's an event that everyone can rally around. So at the time of this podcast, we just unfortunately lost in the playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Boo.
Boo.
Yeah.
But when it's a Leafs game or Euro Cup, we've got World Cup coming next year,
Yeah.
and everyone is there and they're cheering on their team. There's this energy that gets created, and again, you obviously have that unbelievable backdrop with the CN Tower, and it's epic. And that's I think when it sort of sings at its best is that. We've also had we had a beautiful night last September with a group called the Rec Laws, who did a charity concert at Rendezvous. We were able to they were doing it for Kids Help Phone or Helpline, and we raised over $300,000 for that. And it was just sort of a beautiful fall evening, and they played this incredible set, and it was magical. So that was a nice one too.
Brings the community together.
It does, yeah.
And Matt.
Quite a few. What I love to see is when things are activated and in full use. One of my favorites and would probably be, other than I think right when we opened in 2019 in April, and we set a date to open the doors, and it was probably like a later in the week, like a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday or something, and then the Saturday came and we had a sunny day in April, and I remember showing up and just every seat was filled within the place and people were just enjoying it. So I loved that. But even more throughout the whole site is I do love Nuit Blanche every year.
Yeah.
We have about 30,000 people who come through the site through that whole sort of like 12-hour period of time. And lucky enough with the site, it's large enough that 30,000 people, and it's over the evening, you're not shoulder to shoulder. You have enough space, but you really see it activated. You get to see all these different installations from the artists activated in there. And people are just sort of like interacting with each other, with the art and everything that's around. It's super fun.
That's super cool. And it's such a different vibe in the day than at night.
Yeah.
For sure.
You know, absolutely. Okay, back to Oliver. And then this last one for each person. So what is one old Toronto space that you miss? Something that's gone away, a venue, a shop, a restaurant that you wish, could maybe come back?
I date myself a little bit here, but there's a place called the Matador.
Okay.
I don't know it.
So the Matador was, I think it was supposed to be a ballroom, but essentially it was an after-hour booze can. And you would
Producer
go
Will's
in,
putting up his hand.
and there was sort of an old timer in the corner, and you would buy whiskey like flasks, like Mickeys of booze.
Yeah.
And they would have the most unbelievable live musicians there. Like, everyone from like Jeff Healey back in the day to everyone would be up there playing. It was sort of, this is when live music was a lot bigger in our city. And sort of after the bars would closed, all the musicians would sort of go there and sort of jam together. And the fact that you had to like know where it was, know which corner to go to get your Mickey, and then like everything was like this whole thing. And so it felt sort of exciting and fun. And it was at a lot of late nights that were a good time back then.
Cool.
Wow. That is, where was it?
I don't even remember.
That sounds like a
You would
good
get into a
time.
taxi and be like, take me to the Matador.
How sober were you when you left?
Never once. Yeah, never once. Sobriety was not what it was about.
Okay, this is the last question for both of you. Matt, I'll ask you first. If the city gave you a surprise $1 million grant and said, do something weird, what would you do?
It's a tough one, depending on your definition of weird. There's a few things. I mean, I would love to do something and, give back to the community in a way of just something from an installation of something maybe different that doesn't exist here, and just super interactive. That could get super weird depending again on the definition of what you want to do. I'd probably throw a twist in though with it, as weird as, actually try to give a return on that investment with it. There's something I'm sure we could come up with where, not only you spending that and people got to interact and had a blast with it, but, what way would that actually return something to the city, whether it's actually financially or not with it. You could invest into something of a unique business or an idea that's not in Canada or Toronto and bring that in and, use as a test platform.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bunch of ideas that run through my head with it, but.
All right. Great. Oliver?
That's cool.
I've always had this idea called the Willy Wonka water balloon fight.
Oh.
And so I think it'd be neat if we could And if anyone out there wants to give us $1 million, I'm happy to use.
Do we have any balloon sponsors?
Yeah, but something like, if you took, a couple of hundred families, let's say, that have a child at Sick Kids, right, and you put $50,000 golden tickets inside the water balloon, right,
Wow.
and then you have like all the families out there and sort of get a day, like a
I love it.
little reprieve from the what they're going through, and have them have a water balloon fight, and then again have 20 winners win $50,000 to help towards their costs and whatnot. Obviously, when families have a child that's sick, parents can't work as much, all that type of thing. So if anybody's out there wants to do the Willy Wonka water balloon fight,
contact Oliver.
I think we'll make it happen. Yeah, let's make that happen.
You guys are both such, compassionate people. It's so nice to hear. Just quickly before, I know Dane has a question, but just speaking on that, both of you seem to have this kind of very community-oriented spirit and almost, kind of wanting to give back so much, and almost, giving back in terms of being an incubator for small business. I think that's super cool. Seeing different local vendors as you're coming through your spaces. So why is that important to you as entrepreneurs to kind of give back to the next generation?
I think it's just something that comes sort of naturally with it, and should be a thought in there, and trying to set everyone up for success in the future. And not everyone has the same opportunity out there. And as you sort of like peel back a bit more and understand that with it more and more around some of the challenges, I think there's just lost opportunity out there with a ton of these businesses, when you realize what the barriers are, and what may seem simple to some are just some initial steps. And so I think we leave a lot off the table and don't get to see things sort of come to life with it. And you can do all that and set it up so it's successful. You don't need to just throw money at something if you like provide that support and set it up, and you can see, it's measurable. You can figure out exactly, what's successful, and then lean into that, and you'll see that success out of there. So being able to do something, to me, that's fun, problem solving, there's real estate marketing and everything involved, but at the same time has this benefit and goodwill that's coming out of it with it. And I'm just getting to see these businesses that are thriving. And, we've seen ones that have gone out and opened like 2 or 3 locations and come back and say, literally, like, we never actually would have even been in retail in the first place, because that opportunity wouldn't exist. They got
their start with STACKT Market. Yeah, that's super cool. You should be very proud. That's awesome.
No, I love that. Oliver?
I completely agree with what Matt just said. And it's also, for me, I think it's neat to, take something and if you don't pass it on, I mean, none of us didn't have, I think, someone older than them from the industry or whatever back in the day that taught them a bunch of the tricks of the trade.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's sort of, it's kind of like the film industry too, where there's not necessarily, a playbook or a school. You have to go and just be in that industry and experience it and have the tricks of the trade passed down to you. And sort of, I kind of like that, that idea of the mentorship that's involved in our industry.
Yeah. Pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Yeah, I love that. And I think that with you, I know that you have been in the hospitality industry for many years. And so there's a lot that you've gained over the years. Do you want to share a little bit more about your background and how you became the Oliver Geddes of the Fit?
Well, it's really starts with my grandparents having 2 generations of kids. So they had 2, and then they had 16 years later.
Wow.
We had 2 more. And so my uncle, who's the youngest of the 4, is closer in age to me than he is with his brother, my father. And when he was 16, to the chagrin of the family, he dropped out of high school and became a cook. And at 22, he opened his first restaurant. I was a busboy in that restaurant at like 12 years old.
Wow.
And started there, and that then sort of sucked the family in and evolved. So I've been doing this for too long.
Long time.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, I'm happy. We're so happy that you're still around. And the Fifth is a really great concept that sits and has sat in the downtown core for such a long time, for many decades now. But we've seen the many concepts that have come out of it. We've seen Selva. We now have Taipei Tavern that's there, and Rendezviews as well. You have obviously seen the evolution of the district that was once Clubland, and then the entertainment district, and then with all the development coming in, the face of the neighborhood is changing still. The generations have changed. We got through a pandemic. There's so much that has happened. And Toronto being a diverse city as such, you still somehow figure out how to program your space in a way that really caters to the many diverse groups within the community. Where do you get your inspiration from to be able to come up with these wonderful new ventures that seem to always be like, it's always like they're the trendy thing that nobody knew about until,
We didn't know we needed.
yeah, we didn't know we needed. Exactly.
Travel is a big one for me. I love to travel and sort of see, what other places are doing, what other things are doing. There's a weird pattern almost that you can tap into with fashion and music and pop culture and sort of see where things are going, and then it all repeats.
Yeah.
So there's this cycle almost that there's whether it's fashion or music where it sort of circles back to what it was, and it's like, oh yeah, well we used to do that in this way, and so you sort of pull from these different buckets and then create the new entity and go forward with it. It doesn't always work. I've had flops.
You were saying before that, back in, a while ago with Fifth, it was more kind of a date place. People would come. You even said that you've had couples meet there and get married.
Yeah, lots of them.
And it was a place to go dancing, and actually, people went out. Now it's really changing, and it's kind of almost just for the gram, to kind of take your selfie. I was here, and then out they go. Is that frustrating for you, or do you just program and change your approach just to kind of go with the trend of how people are interacting with these spaces?
I think you have to play into it. It's part of society. It's part of life today. That being said, at Rendezvous, for instance, this summer there's an event coming to us called Before the Internet, and they've sold apparently hundreds of tickets, and there's activations, and there's games, and there's things set up for people to. Again, I think it is, very important on just a basic human level to get back to face-to-face interaction, conversation, dancing, hugging, just being human again. And I do think that the pendulum is starting to swing back. I do think that you read about frat houses and sororities that only have flip phones now because they don't want to get into, what I mean? It's not cool to have a smartphone, right? So there is, I think, a certain element of it coming back a little bit, because I think the other thing that is sort of now known is there is. In Toronto, I think it was 2023, the Toronto Foundation came out with something called the loneliness epidemic, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, you can have 10,000 friends, but do you have 10 people you can actually call and hang out with, right? And so I think that people have figured out, and are starting to figure out that, okay, there is something to being analog to having that feel and touch and connect in real life that you can't get from your phone. And there's a big difference between going out and having fun and going out and looking like you're having fun.
Exactly.
So
well, I want to say two things. One, on the whole gram-worthy content. The first time I was in your space, I remember walking in and it was busy, and Bert and Elmo walked by, and then suddenly there was Elmo on a picnic table twerking. And I thought, whose brainchild is this that you would get Sesame Street characters twerking, but it was hitting the gram and people were lining up to see them every week?
We took it to a new level with those characters this spring, where we had Cookie Monster as a Leafs player and Elmo as a Florida Panther, and we had full-on WWE wrestling matches happening as sort of a way to hype the crowd up. Because we have some staff that are actual professional wrestlers, and so they put on these skits, and then that went viral. And so, that's the fun part of our business, is there's no limitations as to the insanity that you can try, and that's the part that we love, which is just the creativity.
No, I love it, and I also love that you talked about the old way of connecting, which is really in person. STACKT Market, I'm 2 buildings over from it, and that was one of the spaces where I've been there to meet up with friends and just sit there and watch dogs run around, to going to Caravana events, to Pride events, and actually some of my good friendships now have actually come out of that space as well. So I think being able to program that space where community is really at the center of it all has really been beneficial to the individuals in the community, but also the businesses who are just looking for, a step up.
Yeah, it comes into the design and, how you what you do, everything from programming as well. Like that's a key piece. I think Oliver's doing a great job at Rendezvous. Like I've been several times when I do, it's been for an extended period of time, whether it's, a game that's on or something, it's an environment you want to hang out in. There's tons of people, but there's usually something happening. I have been there when there hasn't been necessarily specific programming, but that does help usually sort of extend that stay. So you're not just necessarily thinking about, let's grab a photo and go.
Yeah.
You're thinking about this as a spot you're going to want to hang out for a while. And so we do that at STACKT as well. Everything from the programming to the design. And also a big piece of what we do is around the idea of just it's free. I mean, you can just come. You don't have an obligation to buy anything. We're looked at as a public space, and we want people to just come out and hang out and visit the stores, and there is no obligation in there. So, when people use the dog park, there's no cost to that. Everyone comes down. That's a great place for people to meet. There's been date nights and stuff even there with it, where people are meeting and, getting a chance to chat. If we layer in some programming on that, it usually always helps. But even that, it's not coming at a cost in there. It's just added benefits, and we're helping make the introduction.
Yeah. Everything you do in both of your spaces is just so beautiful. And I think, it's kind of that picturesque moment. It's programmed beautifully. It is for the gram. But I think that's important as part of your business model. You want people to come and experience cool things, but also photograph it, because that's how you build awareness, right? It's all kind of made word of mouth that way.
Yeah. I've got to say, for both of your venues, I didn't know what a coffee party was until someone had asked me if I bought my ticket for a coffee party. And I said, didn't know you had to buy tickets to buy coffee these days. But being around the corner from STACKT Market, and I know Rendezviews also has a coffee party that's coming up as well. There were these like massive lineups of people who were just lining up to party in the daytime, having coffee and going to bed at a reasonable hour. That sounds so
luxurious.
Well, I was gonna say, is that Gen Z? Are they the more responsible generation? But tell us more about sort of the idea behind these coffee parties. Like, how did that come to you? And then also, what are some cool events that are going on this summer?
The coffee party, I think it relates back to Oliver had mentioned, travel is a big piece of it. I think there's been quite a bit of it happening internationally out there with these coffee parties that have been happening. I think it's a pretty fun, interesting movement. I laugh sometimes to think about the shops that are hosting these and haven't done it. I mean, it started in things not necessarily just in coffee shops, but everything from like a butcher or something like that in there. And I think, wow, the cleanup for something on that one happened with all that food. But it's a fun movement that's happened, and everyone coming out and sort of a surprise or unique destination or something that in a venue that you typically wouldn't be in is setting a pretty fun time. I always personally think some of the best nights are the ones that aren't planned, and so some of those, I think the surprise element is always a big part of it. So that type of stuff fits pretty naturally, I think, within probably both of our spaces. Coming up this summer, there's a lot.
You just had an Asian market.
We did.
Yep.
So that's part of Backyard. So Backyard's a 5-part series that we do. It's the third Saturday of each month between May and September.
Right.
And so we just wrapped up Asian Night Market. That was great. That was about, I think there's around 13 or 15,000 people that came through.
Whoa.
For that. Yeah, had a bunch of vendors. It's great. It's usually sort of a mix of art, music, and vendors. Through our Backyard series, and the next one is coming up is June 21st, which is Pride Celebration.
Awesome.
Which is the next Backyard series that's coming up.
And it's free to attend.
It is.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
And
then Oliver, for you, I've asked you about, so I learned about pickleball when Oliver had this concept, and then suddenly I noticed on the news people were buying pickleball teams or starting them, and it was a big thing. And I went to Oliver and I said, is this the new avocado toast? It seems like all of a sudden now it's the next trend. Like, what's going on at Rendezviews this summer?
Well, we have our pickleball. We also have free beach volleyball. So we have 2 beach volleyball courts on premise. We also have partnered with Jam Sports, who has a league. So they're doing league play there daily. We're starting on Tuesday nights a free cornhole league.
Cornhole.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
the
the
entire
toss,
thing.
yeah.
Old school.
So it's Tuesdays is cornhole, Wednesdays is wrestling, Thursdays is live music. So again, we really try and just open it up to any and all types of concepts. As you mentioned, we're doing a coffee party before the internet party. We are having a Brazilian festival again.
Wow.
We've got Pride and Caribana activations happening. So there's daily programming and then a bunch of festivals and events that will keep us busy all summer long.
And where can people go to learn more about your locations and all the programming coming up this summer?
Rendezviews.ca is our website, and
Okay.
RendezViewTO is our Instagram handle. If you could check that.
We'll check
We'll
it for you.
correct
Yeah.
Thank you.
And STACKTmarket.com. So it's STACKT market.com, or at STACKT Market on Instagram. Really good. Lots of information there. All the events will be listed out.
Awesome. Our producer said you got it right. You got it right. Your
Did I? Okay,
Instagram,
good.
it's cool.
Good.
I love that. We've got one final question that we want to ask each of you. We usually ask this of our guests. If you were to write a love letter to Toronto, what would your love letter say?
Do you want to start?
Go ahead.
Toronto's an interesting one for me because I've traveled and lived elsewhere, and probably always thought I would end up somewhere else, but learn to appreciate how good of a city this is. And with it, I just appreciate everything from the people, the places, probably the power of community that happens with it, and everyone now really embraces that piece of it. There's a lack of that in many other places in there, and for sure it's even better in some others. So I think there's room for us to grow there, but love that piece, and it's everything from sort of the change and that exists here with it, from the seasons and, like I said, the people. So I think that diversity piece of it and just like all of that is what I love and everyone embraces in the city. So that's my short love letter.
There's a Nelson Mandela quote I love. There's no passion to be found playing small. And I think it's we are always, it seems, on the brink of big things in this city.
Yeah.
And I think that there needs to be more fearlessness in doing things like what Matt did, with STACKT. Like, that's the type of thing that makes a city cool. That's the type of thing where you go and your city, you go back and you bring that back. Like, instead of us always going to other places for ideas, I think both STACKT and Rendezviews, I know for a fact, have both been duplicated in other cities. So we need more of that. We need more bold development. So I think the Well is a great example here in our BIA. The Allied had, the muster, the gumption, thank you. I was going to say the kahunas to go out and do that. You walk in the Well and you're like, oh, wow, this is special. This is something, this is elevated, right? It's big, it's not small. And so we want and strive and sometimes say we're a world-class city. Let's just be a world-class city. And so I would urge our politicians, if they're listening, to consider that and again think of the barriers of entry that they create and some of the red tape that's been created at all levels of government, and see how we can cut a bunch of that, move it aside, and again allow entrepreneurship to flourish.
No, I agree with you. I think that we are really in a really great, interesting time with Toronto. It's sort of like we're moving into this big boy stage, and so that takes a lot of change. So I want to thank you both for actually being the big thinkers and coming up with really great spaces for community to really demonstrate what can be done with the city, and really appreciate you both for being here today. And we want to thank everyone for tuning in to this episode of Table 6, and we hope to see you next time at the table.